Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode number 289, and this podcast is like a horse with pedals. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
Hi, my name is Glenn, and I am a Pokemon Go-aholic.
Hi, Glenn.
Did you have a good week playing Pokemon Go?
That's pretty much all I've been doing all week. Don't judge me.
You're not the only one playing.
You're amongst friends.
I was a little relieved to come in and find out at least one other of the three of us was playing. Maybe not as obsessive as I, but yeah, it dropped.
Hold on, there's one in the yard.
It dropped, and I went whole hog. It started from I might play this casually to I'm level 14. It's been a good week.
Lots of Pokemon Go.
Lots of Pokemon Go.
With all the actual news going on, a friend of mine posted on Facebook. My Facebook feed is anger, 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 Pokemon, anger, 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 anger at Pokemon servers, anger, anger.
It's better than the alternative, I suppose.
That's true.
Oh, what else did we do this
Paris
week?
has just appeared. Hold on, I got to capture that. It's right there. Jump on, Glenn.
Let me get back in.
Jump on.
In our 9 months between Game of Thrones, I picked up A Clash of Kings, and am 80 pages into it already. So far,
Nailed him.
The pacing and the storytelling of this book is even better than the first book. So I'm really enjoying it. Only 700 more pages to go.
Speaking of books, I just finished Cat's Cradle Warhead, which is one of the Virgin New Adventure novels. So
Who wrote that one?
that was Andrew Cartmel, and it is quite enjoyable, and it really gives you a feel for where Cartmel really wanted to take the Doctor and Ace beyond season 26.
I watched 3 movies this week.
Ooh.
What'd you watch?
I watched Lost River, was the first one I watched. The Ryan Gosling directed film, if you can call it that.
Ooh.
It wasn't very good.
Oh.
I heard there's a lot of footage for it, so I don't know if in the edits something got lost, but it has the feel of a 90s indie flick, which is okay. It feels like it's trying to say something profound.
Which is okay.
Which is good, which is nice.
But it has to do that.
It doesn't actually say anything that I got. If you want a head scratcher, that's on HBO Go. And then we took Audie to go see The Secret Life of Pets, which was okay. It was pretty cute. It's definitely worth seeing.
I finally watched Noah this week with Russell Crowe and
I think that's the one. Oh, who directed that?
I don't know, the atheist that doesn't like the Bible, apparently.
It's Requiem for a Dream director, right?
Yeah.
That's the one Darren Aronofsky film I have not seen.
It was okay. I
was
didn't
it
hate
alright?
it. Yeah, I didn't hate it. I could see why Christians were mad. It was okay. It was worth watching. It's on Hulu this month. So.
I watched. I'm going to feel really bad bringing this up based on the weighty things that you guys have done.
Secret Life of Pets is not weighty.
I watched Pee-wee's Big Holiday, or whatever the new one is.
Oh, the Netflix one.
The Netflix one. It's Pee-wee Herman. I mean, all of the Pee-wee Herman movies, whether some of them are cinematic masterpieces or not, they still have that kind of base level of dumb, goofy enjoyment. That's exactly where this one falls into it. And, there's a couple of jokes that fall flat, but most of it's still pretty good. So, what else did I watch? I watched Matilda. You have kids, grandkids come over, so you'll watch his kids' movies.
You've seen that one before,
I've
right?
never seen Matilda.
Really?
Yeah. Delightful. Thoroughly enjoyed that one. Now, I made Mel watch The In-Laws. I don't know if I mentioned this last week or not.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, so then we watched the remake this week, which stars Albert Brooks and Michael Douglas. And I can say that it is, while I personally didn't find it as good as the original, it's a fun little comedy on its own right.
We also
finally got around to watching Sherlock's Christmas special, The Abominable Bride.
What'd you think?
It was really good. Really good.
So far behind.
It's so clever in why they place it in the 1800s.
Yeah.
19th century. I wondered how they were going to do it and why they were doing it that way. And then when the revelation is why it's done that way happens, it's like, wow, that was really clever. So
we watched Moneyball. Was the other thing we watched.
How's that one?
It was all right. Probably my least favorite of any of Aaron Sorkin's writing. We also finally finished Falling Skies. He's getting more Pokemon.
Wait, what's here?
Star you. Only have one of these, so I'll star you.
So if you catch it, can he not?
Yeah, he can still catch it.
No, it's still there.
Let's move on to news.
Star you!
So, San Diego Comic-Con's coming up, if you aren't aware, later this month. And some announcements have been made of what's happening for Doctor Who. As for the show proper...
Wait, nothing. There's not going to be any Doctor Who presence. That was told to me early in the week, so that means it's final, and there's no Doctor Who presence whatsoever at San Diego Comic-Con.
There's no televised Doctor Who presence.
No, none. Because when you come out and make a quick clickbait statement like, no Doctor Who representation at San Diego Comic-Con, then I don't have to click on the story because I know that means everything.
That's right. Nope. No BBC
Stupid
production.
clickbait articles.
But Titan Comics will be at San Diego Comic-Con with a panel along with a special convention special comic featuring an all-new, never-before-released story, The Long Con, starring the 10th, 11th, and 12th Doctors. So,
okay.
There's no word if they were going to release the comic widely. I really hope so. Typically, they do after Comic-Con, so keep an eye out for that. And, of course, they're going to have all sorts of stuff going on at their booth, and I think they have a panel to talk about the Four Doctors, the Third Doctor comic that's coming up, as well as the Supremacy of the Cybermen, which just debuted this past week ahead of yesterday's
Keith,
comic book day.
What you're telling me is there's going to be some Doctor Who at San Diego Comic-Con?
There is.
Crazy.
But none of the actors. When
you
people
mean
hear
there's not going to be any BBC actors present for Doctor Who representing Doctor Who
or
in this year where there's no Doctor Who on television?
Or showrunners.
Shocking.
I know.
But there is going to be a representative of some Doctor Who in other media that is continuing to run through this year?
That is correct.
Shocking. I'm playing coy because I just got really frustrated with the revelation on all the Doctor Who websites and all the clickbait sites going, hey, there's not going to be any Doctor Who. Oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, Armageddon. And in the back of my mind I kept thinking, there's going to be something there. But no, there's not going to be a Doctor Who. It's Chaos Armageddon. That means the show's dying. No, it doesn't. It just means there's no Doctor Who on this year, so there's no reason for them to be there.
Yeah.
And there is a comic book that is still ongoing in this year, so it makes sense that Titan would represent.
And there was a year where there was no BBC sponsored Doctor Who presence at San Diego Comic-Con.
There was no BBC anything there that year.
And there was Doctor Who coming back later that year. It was because they were in the middle of production and they couldn't get away. So it's not like just San Diego Comic-Con is not the end all be all of anything.
Exactly.
Well, and
that is exactly right.
This is
there's another major
such a
network
no-brainer. No story here. That going to Comic-Con and setting up a booth and flying your actors in and having a presence and
to promote something
this
that's
is
not
expensive.
happening until Christmas. Yeah.
This is super expensive to organize and do all that. And then, let's be honest, you've got to deal with the whole BBC leak thing because anything they tell you is going to immediately wind up on a server in Argentina.
Let's be fair. That hasn't happened now for 2 years. I mean, we've been pretty good. The way you're going to have to you're going to have to cut them some slack here pretty soon.
Even the 50th trailer didn't fully leak,
right?
Like it was, everyone feared it was. Well, and 20th Century Fox is passing this year on San Diego Comic-Con. They're not going to have a presence at all. So it's not unheard of for a major company not to have a presence at San Diego.
If you don't have anything to promote at this time, it doesn't make any sense to spend the money to promote it.
Yeah. I think San Diego is kind of waning in its height.
Well, I think part of that comes to the fact that there are Comic-Con conventions all over the U.S. now, and I think that people... The draw of San Diego Comic-Con isn't as big as it used to be, so... It kind of hit its peak, and now it's on the downslope, so...
Yep. Good. Maybe we can actually go.
Okay, but give me some actual real news.
Wait. This just came in. Traveling the Vortex will not have a presence at San Diego Comic-Con this year. This is huge news we thought you should know right away.
So give me some real news that, real news, some Doctor Who news. That
the Mirror is reporting that Matt Smith might make his way back to Doctor Who.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Not just make his way back, but regenerate as the new Doctor.
De-regenerate.
You're de-regenerator, however you want to...
They don't really say...
Re-regenerate.
It would be re-regenerate.
They posted a very vague report saying that maybe about to travel back in time to play Doctor Who again. Show boss Stephen Moffat has hinted, according to the Mirror, Smith could be the first of the 12 Doctors to return to the TARDIS after regenerating.
From an interview that he did more than a year and a half ago.
Yep.
And I think then they also use a quote from Matt Smith 2 years ago that said, someday I wouldn't mind coming back to Doctor Who. Yeah, it'd be great to do it again.
Okay,
he said it 2 years ago.
Here are the quotes. I don't know when this doesn't say when Moffat's quote was. He said Matt is quite open about how much he misses it and how much he wishes he hadn't left. That doesn't mean he's coming back. That just means he misses the show.
It was in the middle of Series 9. Somebody already found that.
A fan asked Matt in April, I'm assuming at a convention, if he would play the Doctor again, and Matt replied, I would really want to.
Oh, so that was April? Somebody had said that was a longer ago than that.
And I'm sure that's more in reference of, like a multi-Doctor story.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to mention coming back as the showrunner.
The Mirror apparently jumped on this because he was sighted in Cardiff over the weekend. Or last week, I guess it was. Early last week.
They also quote Moffat saying that Matt's decision to leave 3 years ago was a tough time. And he added, Matt, who was a friend and ally, was leaving. I couldn't get him to stay. I felt like everything was blowing up around me.
Now, I don't fault the Mirror in this.
It's a great clickbait article. It's trending on Facebook.
This is very typical of the Mirror. This is what they do. This is what we've learned. This is what we should know by now. What irritates me now is the fact that this showed up on Doctor Who fan pages in my news stream consistently for 2 days straight. And the responses were, yay, that'd be great. I'm looking forward to the... People, be smart about this. It was the Mirror reporting this. You should have... The bing, bells and whistles should have gone off at that point. And red flags everywhere.
How many times between Matt Smith announcing he was leaving and Peter Capaldi being announced, were there articles of David Tennant returning to the role?
Yeah, exactly.
Not going to happen. I'm sorry.
No. How many articles did we get after Night of the Doctor that Paul McGann was coming back?
Yeah.
When the BBC announces that Matt Smith is coming back to Doctor Who as the Doctor, then I'll jump in there and I'll say, now is your chance to let me know what you think of this real news and not this fake concoction of clickbait.
Here's where we come down on this, guys. Be smart. This just in, Doctor Who's still not on.
Click your logic sensors on.
So... when you hear something this earth-shattering, maybe grain of salt time.
If it sounds too good to be true,
spoonfuls
of
kosher salt.
It usually is too big to be true, too good to be true.
That's it for news.
So wait a minute. We had 2 news stories. One
hey,
said,
one
no Doctor Who presence at San Diego Comic-Con. Wait. There is Doctor Who presence at San Diego Comic-Con.
And some great comic stuff going on.
And then we got Boy, this is really kind of the dry time, isn't it, between series?
This dark year is rough.
The dark year. I like that. Dark year. That's good.
The dark
year. If you say wilderness year again, I will come across this table.
I've never said wilderness.
You did too. You encouraged it.
Well, I encouraged it, of course, because I knew it would aggravate you. But the dark year. So this is the year the Doctor was in a really bad mood.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, he's been in a bad mood the last 2 years. So.
We're just going to play Kill the Moon on repeat.
Oh. All right.
Over.
So can we move on to feedback?
Feedback, yes.
Every week for Friday Night Who, we're going to do Kill the Moon.
Our first bit of feedback comes from Eric. Eric writes, Book Club, June, Royal Blood. Hi guys, I've been listening to the show for quite a while now. I started out listening to a large number of Doctor Who related podcasts and dwindled down to only 2 or 3 these days, but I make sure to never miss Traveling the Vortex.
Thank you, Eric.
You guys have a great chemistry and also stay positive for the most part. That doesn't mean you auto-like everything you review, but it does mean you're generally not dismissive of things before trying them out. Like myself, you pull the positives out of a work that may not be your thing. I'm not sure you've noticed, but our specific niche of fandom seems to be full of folks that don't seem to actually like Doctor Who at all.
That is so true.
That's true, Eric, and I try not to look at those people or interact with them as much as I can. I don't want that kind of negativity in my life. Eric goes on, I know from being someone who has done his fair share of creative work, positive feedback is always nice to hear and unfortunately not give often enough. I won't go on, but keep up the good work. The podcast is really something special and stands out even among its peers. He goes on to say, this review may be a little late, but I'm currently a week behind you guys on listening to the podcast as well. I'm trying to catch up, smiley face.
The good news is...
we're behind too, Eric. So we are not going to read his review.
Of Royal
Blood. If you want to read it, head over to the Goodreads Book Club, or wait, and soon, and we're not going to put a specific date on it yet, but we will review Royal Blood, and then we will read that section of his email.
Along with anybody else's who has
posted
their information on
on their review of Royal Blood, please send it our way, and we'll read that in tandem as well.
Eric finishes off his email. Well, that's all for now, and I'll try to be in touch more often. Hope you guys have a great week, and thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for taking the time to read this. Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
And
good to hear from you.
I guess welcome to the show, even though...
He's been listening for a while.
He's been listening for a while, but welcome officially.
Yeah.
You get an official welcome when you write feedback.
So. When you let us know you've been listening, you get an official welcome.
If you haven't written us feedback, welcome anyway, but, doesn't mean as much because I don't know your name.
And thank you, Eric, for pledging on Patreon.
Yes, absolutely. That's a huge thank you for that, because that helps tremendously as far as keeping us going. So, and if you're not supporting us on Patreon, well, why not? You can find a link on travelingvortex.com, and any amount helps. If you can't help us there, we do understand. But if you are considering buying something, be sure to check out those links in the right side of our page for some of our sponsors, because a portion of that goes to our show as well.
Our next bit of feedback comes from Dr. Phil, and he sent in some audio. So let's take a listen.
Hey, Glenn, Keith, and Sean. Dr. Phil, just sending in some very belated feedback on The Mask of Mandragora. Listen to Adventures in Timeless Music episode on that one. One thing that might have been missed is that the second series of Big Finish Sarah Jane Smith audios culminates in a huge connection to the return of Mandragora in the 20th century. After the first season has a big connection to another Sarah Jane and 4 story. I don't want to spoil that because it's kind of a really great surprise in that as well. So anyway, one of the neat things also about the Mask of Mandragora is, of course you know I'd bring up the music. And out of the 3 cues that are used as stock music during the Mask, even though masks did not exist at this time in Italy, in the period in which things take place in San Martino, one of the 3 cues is actually from the right period. The others are about 30 years too late. But the use of Port Byron in from The Prisoner is very great. This is a favorite one growing up. Also because of the fact that you have the very Shakespearean drama of Count Federico trying to take the crown a la Hamlet, which is very fun because my older brother is a Federico as well, so I've always called him my entire youth Count Federico, but I'm glad that he was not killed by the Mandragora energy. Anyway, glad to be catching back up with Traveling the Vortex, and sorry to be kind of out of the fold for a while. So take care, guys, and hope to hear more soon. Bye.
Thanks, Dr. Phil,
Thank
for
you,
writing
Phil.
in. And, of course, go check out his podcast that he mentioned off the top of the feedback.
Yeah, Adventures in Time, Space, and Music.
Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Phil.
I'm really excited to get to those Sarah Jane Adventure stories now.
Yeah. We may be able to do another Mandragora Adversary Archive and a Sarah Jane Smith Companion Archive. Which rolled up in
We'll
one.
just roll them
All
up
in
in one.
Looking forward to those. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Should we move on to our reviews?
Yes. Should we start with our audios?
Let's do.
Brave new town. It's like the village that time forgot. The inhabitants of the quiet seaside town of Thorington in Suffolk are living the same day over and over again. What's so special about the 1st of September 1991?
It's a Sunday.
Why haven't the villagers noticed that the same song has been number one for years?
It was
It's a
a
good
really
wedding
good song.
And where on earth has the sea disappeared to? The Doctor and Lucy must solve the mystery before the visitors return.
Dun, dun, dun. Uh-oh. Go ahead and give it a grimace.
You know, I didn't hate the story. The problem I had with it is I figured it out way too soon. And so that kind of marred it for me. But because when I honestly, I thought, my first thought was this was a town that was a nuke city where these were plastic dummies and they had somehow come to life. And then that started the little wheels turning, going, oh, wait a minute, these guys are plastic, because they couldn't be seen on the heat. They kind of made it a deal that they could. And the one guy said, we stand really still. And so I thought, okay, these guys aren't real, they're plastic. And then the wheels started churning, and I went, oh, if these guys are plastic, they're probably autons. And then the wheels started churning, and then it was something about, they had said something about a consciousness. Not setting nesting yet, but they said something about consciousness. And when they started hearing the voice. And so then I thought, okay, so that's probably the nesting consciousness. So that has now verified for me that these are autons. And then the thing that sold it to me was when they actually flipped their hand down and the gun came out. And I went, okay, they're autons. So that at that point, I figured that out relatively early in the story. And so unfortunately at that point, I was like, okay, no, I have figured this out too soon. So I thought, hopefully there'll be some big twist that will, make me like this story again, and it won't be so bad that I figured it out. And then the story just really didn't go anywhere after that. I mean, it did, but I mean, it still trundled along the whole reveal of them being autons. And I like the idea that they have a self-awareness. That
Autonomous
aspect,
autons.
yeah, autonomous autons. That aspect of the story, I thought, was presented well, and so enjoyable enough from that aspect, but just because I had figured out, it kind of marred it for me. So
I should have realized it was autons based off of Sean's selection for Friday Night Who. I saw this and I thought, why are we doing Spearhead from space? I'm not going to question it, but okay. And then I got into the story and
Quite honestly, I may have planned that once upon a time, and then forgot after I scheduled it, forgot why I scheduled it that way. And it wasn't until we sat down tonight and I pulled up my synopsis and went, oh yeah, that's why I did that. But I don't really know that I did that one on purpose.
Well, that works well. And apparently this is the first Auton appearance in audio. So that works really well with Sean.
The only way that you could do this is giving them that self-awareness, making it a self-awareness story.
Yeah.
Because they had to speak. They had to not know what they were and discover that. And that makes it a good audio, because I don't know how you could have... I can't think of another good way you could have put autons in it, because they don't generally speak. And the revelation of the little gun coming out of the hand is hard to do in audio.
Yeah.
And they did it well here because, in fact, when they make reference to the hand coming out of the gun, it's very obvious from the dialogue, but it doesn't sound forced. And so they did a good job with that.
Well, it's a really good way to do a surprise Auton story.
Yeah.
I know.
If it had been a surprise, it would have been better.
I know how they later do it. How they do an Auton story without having them talk.
Oh, that's right. You're
because
you're skipping ahead.
I listened to one, and it's done really well. So they it can be done both ways. But I do like that they talk in this. I really like that aspect, and it helps. It even this predates Rory the Roman, right?
Right.
So it kind of sets up that whole idea that they can do that. Of course, Spearhead has them talking also. So
that's why I said they generally don't do that, but there are occasions where they have.
There are the few select individuals that can reach a higher plane.
I think that's one of the things that maybe, when I first listened to this story, it was before the Roy the Roman had become a thing.
Big Bang.
Big Bang, thank you.
You listened to it before that you saw that episode?
Yeah.
I'm surprised by that.
Well, I remember I've gone through these.
Well, yeah, but didn't you start these after we started the podcast?
Yes.
And that happened before Christmas Carol.
Yes. No, he wasn't listening to these
audios. You started the.
Well, you did start the audios after
I did
we
start
started
the audios after
podcast.
then.
So yeah,
okay,
we
so
had
it would
gotten
have
to
been
Christmas
after.
Carol. Yeah, we had gotten to Christmas Carol already. Yeah.
You would have seen. I wouldn't have, but you would have seen it.
Because that was before Christmas, wasn't it? Yeah, because he's wearing. Okay, then never mind.
Because it's the end of season 5.
I was trying to make a connection to hindsight there that maybe would have changed the perspective on it. But you're right. It's in my head, it's all new anyway. So, what I like about this one, I think, is honestly the small things. They're not even really callbacks. They're just kind of familiar tones, like the fact that it's the same day in the town all the time. For me, reminded me of Android Invasion, where the doctor's flipping through the calendar and it's all the same day. Which you guys know, that's one of my favorite stories. I don't know why, it just is. So when we got to that part, it was just, woo! I don't know why. It wasn't exactly like, oh, this is just like, no, it's not. But it just felt familiar. Or the little things like that kind of sprinkled throughout it that just kind of harmonically resonated with me and made me enjoy it. I thought the idea was really cool that you've got this group of Autons hanging out and wondering what the heck's going on, and then suddenly fearing the call that, are we going to become, I like the definitive endpoint that there could have been we've got to solve problem X by time frame Y. It's not just the fact that you're an Auton, it's the fact that when there's a signal and maybe it's going to get to you or not.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing that was cool. One thing that I feel they could have done more of is give us a little bit more backstory of the Russians, or I guess they weren't really Russians. The
Uzbekistanians.
Of how they wound up with this nesting consciousness, and
I completely agree with where you're coming from.
And that really is the only negative thing I have to say about the story.
Because while they did a good job conveying to us that Uzbekistan separated from the USSR, or from Russia, I guess at that point became independent.
Yeah.
And so that's why this kind of spy service kind of failed and became a separate thing, or a separation from the package that it was before. They did a good job of explaining that, but dropping the idea of how they started this and why they had the nesting consciousness and how they learned to utilize the technology, what didn't come across. Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of connect the dots if you stop and think about it. Of in Spearhead, all these control spheres came down all over the planet, and so you can kind of connect the dots that way because it's before 1991, even weird unit dating, and so you can do it. I just would have liked a little bit more in the story itself.
Yeah, agreed.
I'll give you that.
But I like the characters too, of the dad and the daughter trying to find his daughter. Of she's the first one to recognize the call and going forward and hunting it down, and they try to give you a lot of misdirection before you get to the big Auton reveal, which I appreciated.
I thought what also wasn't delivered enough upon was the destroying of the oil well because of the fact that, or the taking of the oil well, because they were utilizing the substance that creates the Autons. It's almost like they were setting up some sort of, not message there, but some sort of connection to, the Autons wanting to save and preserve something, the essence of them, but they don't quite get there. And the other thing that I thought was interesting about this, and I think it's fine, is the Doctor and Lucy leave before cleaning up the mess, and so you get the impression that we're going to be revisiting this sometime down the road because the one Uzbekistani and the guy that had an English accent, which I assume was Russian or Uzbekistani, was looking at a cash grab on this, and that's where they left it. So
yeah, well, and the oil thing almost also feels like that's because of the consciousness, so he can create more. It can create more Autons, and then therefore
I think that's where they were going
dominate the world. Yeah. I don't like them pushing against it and deciding, no, we don't trying to fight the consciousness. That's a nice new aspect to. I mean, we get it in Roy the Roman, but it's nice to see to explore that in a different way. Overall, I really enjoyed this one.
This was written by Jonathan Clements, who we've reviewed his work prior, which was the Zeus one with the Eighth Doctor story, where the Immortal Beloved.
Yeah.
And I think kind of had the same reactions. I think I liked it maybe a little more than the two of you did.
Yeah, I didn't care for
you
that.
You didn't care for it, but once again, Paul McGann's awesome.
And Lucy is great in this too. I know I initially wasn't very keen on her, but she's really starting to grow on me more, and she's got some really funny bits in this. Like, where does plastic come from? Taiwan!
That was good.
There's a lot of great lines from her.
She's really growing as a character, and I really thoroughly enjoy her the further we go with her.
Yeah, me too.
Let's move on to the next one.
The Skull of Sobek. Too much perfection's dangerous. On the isolated planet of Indigo 3, far out in the wastes of the Blue Desert, lies the sanctuary of imperfect symmetry. It is a place of contemplation and reflection. It is also a place of death. Something from another time, from another world, has found its way inside the hollowed walls. Something with a leathery hide, a long snout, and sharp, pointy teeth. Tick-tock. Here comes the crocodile. I'm kind of on this one, too.
I kind of had hoped for you guys to come and explain the story to me. I had a real difficulty following this one and wondering why at all it was happening, other than it just all ended up being kind of a game. It was... I really don't know where I land on this, because I wanted to enjoy it, and I thought the audio production was really good as far as how it was produced.
Yeah, and the performances.
But I don't know where it went. I don't know what happened. I really don't.
It's one of those... It's written by Mark Platt, so...
He's so all over the map for us.
It seems to be his MO to deliver these really cool nuggets and then not put the pieces together quite well enough for them to quite make sense. Because this...
Except he did Spare Parts, which is phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. No, yeah. Ghostlight's good too.
Yeah, and once you figure it out.
That's my... I guess that's my... I want to be able
Luke
to...
Luke Garreau was kind of meh for us.
That's why I wanted to like this story, because I just read Cat's Crucible... or Cat's Cradle times Crucible, which was also written by Mark Platt, and that was the last new adventure book that I read, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that one. And it's very written, not so much in the Mark Platt vein of you kind of have to... It really makes you think, and it's very surreal and visual, even though it's a book. This one, that's why I say I wanted to like this, because I come to this like Ghostlight. The first time I watched Ghostlight, I didn't hate Ghostlight, but I wasn't sure that I understood what was happening. And I almost did the same thing with this one, as I walked away from it going, okay, I think that was good, but I don't think I quite understood it. I don't think I followed it.
Yeah,
So it's
I
one of
had
those
a lot of that too.
If I had a help guide like Ghostlight does,
Go get on that, Keith.
maybe I could go back and enjoy it again. I don't know.
It's just, I don't know. So there's a sanctuary, and we've got a monastery, and a religious ceremony, and anthropomorphized crocodiles. That's really all I can come away with.
And the crocodile built this, gave the skull to build this.
I gave the skull to the monastery to hide it, but not hide it, but to house it. But didn't I understand that it was a cash thing? It was they did it for money, right?
Yeah, to build
And
this
so-
new pool,
yeah.
which was for the crocodile.
And
so it kind of did.
and it was for the skull because there wasn't the skull was actually down inside the pool, underneath the pool or something like that.
was. I got the impression that it was the
pool.
It was the building around the pool.
So-
that's a big.
Oh,
skull.
it housed the pool. Okay, I
Yeah.
got you. So now that's why it's a big room. You'd think we'd see a skull in here. Well, you couldn't.
Yeah.
Well, you described the size of the skull too. That's
Yeah.
why we can't see it. Or, I mean, if it was here, we'd be able to see it. Well, okay, that makes sense. That it was what was housing the school or housing the pool. And then they need champions for each side of some battle that's been going
Some
on
ancient
for
battle
years.
between a father and a son.
And they choose champions, and what's the point?
Instead of just fighting each other straight out, which they wind up kind of doing.
Yeah, ultimately that's what happens in the end. Is they fight it out and end it that way.
Yeah.
And the Doctor, realizing that the skull basically wants it to come to an end and wants it to be resolved.
Yeah.
And then Lucy somehow gets not manipulated. She gets
Possessed.
Possessed. I wasn't sure possessed was a word, but let's go with that. She gets possessed to be one of the side's champions. The Doctor's supposed to be the other one, and he ends up talking her down from whatever possession she's got. Right? I'm on a right.
Right.
Okay. So I did follow this better than I thought I did, and then the two end up really battling it out anyway, and that's the end.
Yeah.
It's,
Does the skull get destroyed? Do I remember that correctly?
I think so. Misadventures at Church is kind of the...
And there's this...
Misadventures at Church. I have an episode title.
Nothing happened. I mean, we go through the whole thing with the setup and the, oh no, the Doctor's going to be the champion. Oh no, Lucy's going to be the champion. What are we going to do? They're going to fight, and they don't. Okay, and then nothing happened. It just kind of petered out. You followed it fine.
Okay.
There's just nothing happening here.
It feels like a story that needs almost more to explain what's going on. Because
More than 45 minutes.
yeah, because the
Damn you, Mark Platt.
because the setup is kind of
That's
cool.
what happened to Ghostlight. They shoehorned him into a smaller, concise story.
I wonder if this was another Doctor that he would have been able to...
do you think a script editor went in and chopped it up like Cartman
maybe,
did?
I don't know.
Here's my new proposal. I want Mark Platt to write movies that...
Allow him time to flesh out his storyline?
Books
Peter
are apparently
Jackson
the better-
can go direct.
Oh.
I think that would be the...
Well, I think Lungbarrow is one of the most highly regarded Doctor Who books of all books, not just in the New Adventures. Of all books, is one of the most highly regarded books, and so maybe that's his forte is long form. Maybe
I think
he
it is.
needs that
Oh, and
chance.
you like the other ones.
Yeah,
too.
I loved Times Crucible too. So
And Spare Parts is a
and
four-parter.
Spare Part,
Yeah.
well, but so was Ghostlight. No, Ghostlight was
There's
only
only
three
three.
parts. There you go. If
needs to do a four-parter.
if you can find Mark Platt, his stories aren't that great. If you give him some room to world build, then
He would have been fantastic in Troughton and Pertwee's era.
Yeah,
But wait, Luke Garrow was also a four-part.
yeah, that's true.
Well,
Maybe that's the oddball.
That was him getting his feet wet with the audio.
Maybe, yeah.
Luke
that the
Garreau
first one.
was. I think we all recognized the ambition of it.
Yeah.
It just fell down.
And this story has a lot of ambition there too, because the planet setup,
Sorry, no. Okay, go ahead.
the planet setup of this all blue and the storm that comes every once so often, and people are trying to get sanctuary and they're not letting them in. That
Okay.
itself could be a fantastic story.
Okay.
And then it gets sidelined for the
And that's
crocodile.
the parts that I enjoyed.
Was that the other team that was trying to get in?
Well,
they're shooting at the doctor and
other
Lucy,
team,
and they get inside,
Yes.
and then they're trying to kick
To
him
some
out,
extent.
and Lucy joins the convent, and they kick the doctor out the window, but luckily it's not that far of a fall, and he falls on a tent to the outside, and then they recruit him.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. But not everyone outside is on that other team.
Okay.
The doctor just
He just happens to fall into the other team.
Yeah.
What happened is the Team Blue was outside trying to get the Pokemon alligator.
The sanctuary was a gym.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Does it work now?
It works now. Greatest Big Finish story I've ever heard.
It was the...
Oh, timing. Thou art fickle.
Misadventures at church.
It's the not even the church aspect, because some of that is interesting too. It's the crocodile metaphysical aspect
crocodile
of the
people.
story that I have problems with, and had more trouble.
Thanks.
More trouble following of what was going on because of the skull and taking them off to some other time and place, and yeah, that's the part that doesn't work for me. The rest of it I think was fascinating.
A bite there. Just happened to look up.
Did you get him?
I got him.
Okay.
It was a bit of
Is that what you
fluff
were
or
looking at? You were
something.
looking at my forehead, too.
Yeah, I was trying to see. I couldn't tell if it was there.
I couldn't tell if it was a
where
bit of fluff or what, and then I went and smeared it, and it was a bug. So he may have been sucking on you. Sorry.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
We have a mosquito infestation, apparently, in the studio tonight. I'm glad he was over there.
All right, well, I'm glad you guys kind of justified my... The fact that I did follow it, I just didn't follow it.
I'm with you. I thought the world building part of it was great, and I was super excited about it, despite the fact that the title was The Skull of Sobek.
And
The minute you give me a title like that in a Doctor Who story, I'm kind of already coming up with preconceived notions that I don't necessarily want. It's like, oh, this is going to be one of those. You know, it's going to be a horror, gothic, something or
I would
another.
have been more okay with that.
And maybe not. But then the alligator showed up, or the crocodiles, and I just kind of was like, nope. I've mentally checked out now. It's just
I had wondered if
Glenn's going to hate this story.
I had wondered if those crocodiles had linked back to something species we'd heard before, but because there was the one where they were on the space station, Airman and the Doctor and Perry, and weren't there like crocodile-like creatures in that?
I think there may
and
have
I
been,
thought
yeah.
maybe they linked, and then the further they started explaining this story, I mean, there's no way that
There's
links
no
to
way.
them. They were just like malicious species that were slavers.
Well, and it seemed almost... Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here. But it seemed almost a cheap shot at Lucy to suddenly develop this weird phobia of crocodiles.
Yeah.
You know, this. I mean, it's not important to the plot. I don't know what your guys' particular phobias are until you wind up in a story that requires it. You know, it's like all of a sudden, oh, we're on the planet of the spiders. I should probably let you know something. But it just seemed. Of all the things to have a phobia about crocodiles.
And it seems like an odd reason to have the phobia, too.
Yeah.
The fact that she was afraid of Peter Pan as a kid because of the crocodile, it was...
Maybe there's some really
understand
deep-reaching psychology there.
Yeah, It just, that fell flat for me, too.
Yeah. It's just, it felt very much like one of those... And I'm going to put this in here because it's convenient and I kind of need it right now.
Yeah, a convenient device.
All right.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Mark. Didn't think this was not your best work here, bud.
Yeah. Like I say, I wanted to like it, and maybe further exploration of it maybe change my mind a little bit. But as it comes down, I think that the other thing overall is we're right in the middle of this second season. And it's been really, really good. And so to kind of slide down, it feels like a letdown to me. So I'm hoping we can ramp back up again before we get to the end.
One bit of casting fun. The old prince, Giles Watling, brother of Deborah Watling.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
All right, shall we do the Titan Big Finish 8th Doctor miniseries comics?
Yes. The Eighth Doctor, as played by Paul McGann, is shocked to find one of his old houses on Earth has been taken over by a young artist, Josie Day, an artist whose paintings are inexplicably coming to life. The search for the shocking truth of Josie's powers sends the pair on an epic quest through space and time, from a shattering test of faith in a civil war
to a creepy Victorian magic show, a cursed stately home, and a final revelation in the stars.
Well, this one's tough because as a miniseries, it would get an uneven dun for me. But overall, I thought the arc was good, but each individual story itself varied for me as far as whether I liked it or loved it. I didn't hate any of them.
And I agree with you there, too, but I also not sure the arc was... It almost didn't feel enough of a tie-in.
There almost wasn't enough of an arc?
Yeah. It was if this had just been, hey, we're going to do Eighth Doctor stories, and there's another one coming after this, okay, cool. But as a mini-series event, I don't know, I wanted a little bit more of a cohesive, yay, Eighth Doctor mini-series event, you know?
Yeah, and I could see that. Because it's not until very late in the run that we start getting the more peppered in. I mean, by the time you finish it, you realize what they were doing with the second issue and the third issue.
Squirtle, sorry.
But going forward from there, you really start to see more of the connections of what they're starting to do with the story, especially once they show up with the painting and everything like that.
Yeah.
That's the thing about this story is I think I liked the bookends the best.
I think so too.
I liked the beginning, and I liked the fact that the pictures came to life.
What a great medium to do comic for.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't question why Josie had this ability to create these paintings that did come to life. I didn't question that at all.
Yeah.
I just thought it had something to do with being at one of the doctor's houses, which I'm going to tell you about while I was holding something for this particular moment. But and then to come back and explain sort of more of that and utilize that device from the beginning, I thought is what I liked the most about it. And the reason why I say I like this overall arc is because I liked those two pieces of it, which is it is the beginning and the end of it. And I think what the other three stories do is they develop the story of Josie. So Josie, yeah, they develop the story of Josie nicely and kind of give us the idea of the character that she is and why it justifies who she is and why it justifies why she should be an entity in herself, why she should remain, why she should be basically a freed slave because she was a product of this woman's vanity, and so she has earned her place as a being, as a person. Her humanity. She's earned her humanity just based on what you've told me about her in these three stories. So I think that's why overall I think the arc serves well too. In between there, we do have some stories that then are reviewed, that can be reviewed on their own merits, and I think that's where it is up and down for me.
Yeah. Well, and each of those stories in between the bookends give you the little character piece that fits, that creates that, as you said, a whole person of her own entity for the final story, because there's moments in that final issue that call back to each individual issue that you go, oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, it really reveals her character.
It's almost too clever
as a person. Yeah, it's almost too clever.
Maybe that's it, because we kind of get the MacGuffin almost of the whatever fragmentary technology piece that he finds at the house, which they destroy and causes the paintings to go back. So we've written that off as okay. And it's not until you get to the last episode or issue that you find out that, oh no, she's got this ability because of this. And that's I agree with you. That's the part that I really liked. And there are shades of that throughout this, that we're dealing with crystals, we're dealing with reflections in mirrors, we're dealing with... The
reflection one was a great revelation once we get to the full revelation of, oh, that's what they were doing with that one.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So that one paid off more than the crystal one.
There were a lot of little pieces that again, kind of tied in that final moment that made us go, oh. I have a couple of reservations from the fact that at least trapping-wise, I almost felt like, well, we've already done this because we've got Josie and she's an artist. It's like, well, that's what Gabby does.
Yep.
You know, it's not that the Doctor can't hang out with multiple artists,
but in a
I'm
different
sure
way
he's,
too.
You know,
so,
Yeah,
to be
different.
fair,
Yeah.
we know he hangs out with authors a lot, so it makes sense. But it just seemed kind of like for a comic series that, you know, these aren't stories that are separated by years and years and years, and somebody's come back to the well on this. This is something that's currently ongoing.
Yeah.
So that seemed a little odd to me. The idea that we've got, the first issue especially just felt very familiar to the episode where Gabby and the 10th Doctor were off on the planet, and the art was...
yeah.
It just like, we've kind of already done this. So then we got to the crystalline one, and I don't know, that felt vaguely familiar too. I don't remember what it was that made me kind of go, oh wait, but I had a moment there too where I kind of thought, well, this sounds or feels like something we've already done. And so I don't know, maybe it was just because of the trappings of it, how it was put together, that I felt like the sum was not exactly greater than the whole of its parts, or vice versa. The parts weren't exactly greater than the sum, but I don't know. It was an enjoyable read.
Yeah.
I don't want to come down on it too hard, because I did enjoy it.
And Morey's Doctor is great.
And Morey's Doctor is great.
When you do a continuing thread and you bookend it like this, you are going to have, especially when you have different writers on a series, and I don't know how many of these were written by different writers.
I think it was all one writer.
Was it? So
these were all George Mann, I believe.
Okay, so the interesting thing about that is the fact that the writing seems to be uneven to me, because it's almost like somebody was given a task to get from point A to point B, but you could do anything in between as long as you stayed to the outline, is what it feels like. And now to find out that Mann was the one that wrote this whole thing, it seems like it's almost like he wanted a different taste on each particular story.
Yeah.
So that you didn't suspect that there was a big reveal that was coming. Suppose maybe that's the case there. On the flip side of that, I mean, to me, the mirror thing, which I sense you guys liked, the magician story.
I didn't like it while I was reading it. I liked it in hindsight once we got the revelation.
Okay, I agree, because if I review that story on its own, I didn't think it was particularly all that exciting, and I didn't think. I mean, it seemed kind of droll. It seemed like we've just got this magician that's using this mirror that's a prison, and he has entrapped his evil twin, his doppelganger, his alternate universe self in there as he comes out into this world in order to entrap more people and switch places. And
his plot doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah, well, the motivation, I think, is what's missing here.
A, we've already done that short film.
Yeah.
B, the 10th Doctor's already imprisoned somebody in a mirror. Now, that's later in his timeline.
Right.
But I can't help but think
maybe this is how he knows how to do it.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe retroactively you can make that. But it's like, again, I kind of feel like we've already done this.
Yeah, and so I'm with Keith. I think the payoff at the end makes the story better, but only enough to make it better as part of the arc and not better as a standalone story. The crystalline one, isn't that one before it? Was that the music of the...
It's the second one.
That's the second one.
So the music of the Siphons, I think is what it was called?
I don't remember.
Music of the something.
In the graphic novel, I don't think it gave me titles.
That one I liked significantly better than this one, now that I'm going back. I'm with Sean, it felt a little bit tropish or used, but I did like the idea of this entity that's coming across, and its sole purpose is to continue on. Right, that's the one that was dropping the spheres. Was dropping
basically
crystals, and it was seeding the planet, but it was seeding the people to basically continue its existence.
Right.
Yeah.
And you almost at the end come to a sympathetic aspect of it. Is it doesn't necessarily realize that it is destroying another. Although I think you get the impression that it did know, but it was putting less significance on the livestock, essentially.
Yeah,
it
didn't know they were sentient.
Right, exactly. And so when it's realized, so I liked that again, it feels used, but I kind of liked that story, and I thought that was a kind of a neat concept.
Yeah.
The one that I'm struggling the most with to remember is the fourth story. What was that?
That's what I'm trying to get to.
The plants and the
house. Okay, and that was another one that I thought was ambitious and had a great premise, but it almost feels rushed to its conclusion.
Yeah.
And it's almost a it's like we're building this mystery of what's going on here and what's bringing this back, and then we've simply just locked away the problem and left again, which I don't like. And I know the Doctor does this all the time. Is he cleans up he fixes his situation but leaves before cleaning up the mess, and it's another one that the Eighth Doctor has now walked away from that I feel like is going to have repercussions later in the future. Something's going to happen again that you haven't fixed the problem that we've got here going.
Yeah, it's a
You've
Band-Aid.
just basically, put a Band-Aid on it for now and went along your merry way. And so when that happens in this story, then it's like, okay, I wanted a bigger conclusion. So I felt like you rushed to I've got to get this done, so we'll just slap the Band-Aid on and leave.
And this one, more than the other two, doesn't feel like it's providing much to the Josie.
It doesn't.
character.
I think this is the one that does least, and maybe that's another reason that I didn't enjoy it as much. Now, I thought it was ambitious, and I kind of like the premise and the trappings of it, but it doesn't feel like it goes far enough in order for it to
I would
be-
agree with that.
The visual that marries this when they go out to look at the stone circles, and okay, so you say stone circle, we all have that image, We're going. We stones of blood,
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge. That's
Yeah.
where we're going with it.
Yeah.
No, they're giant stone gears on the ground, and it's like, and everybody has the same. Oh,
Yeah.
and it's a great moment when the Doctor starts spouting off the technobabble and the info dump, explaining what it is and how it work and all this kind of stuff, and that there must be a key. I found that to be really cool,
Yes.
and I loved that aspect of the story. That this is what we're looking at. Okay, yeah, this is going to be awesome. But as you said, we go and we find the key. We put the key back in the thing. It keeps the thing in stasis, and the plants don't come for another 200 years because that's the cycle of the.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of lame.
And as long as somebody in this kid's lineage gives his life in order to stop it again, to pass it on to the next key holder,
Or just make sure that they pass the story down correctly.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
he doesn't even give his life. He lives.
Yeah, well, that's true. But to that's right, he does live. I forgot about that. But seemingly he had given his life, but he hadn't.
No, the butler.
The butler
The
died.
butler gave his life to.
Okay,
reveal
so
where
that's
the
what I
key
was saying.
at,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is the butler gives his life, so this kid, somebody in his lineage, is going to give his life to pass on the key information to somebody. It just seems like we've got this infinite loop going to happen here. Continually,
I don't think they
the
need
same
to
thing
continue
has
to give
to
their
happen.
life.
The same thing has to happen though in such
They
a way.
They have to turn the key every so
exactly.
often.
And I guess
Yeah.
it seems to like a self-perpetuating.
I think what
issue.
happened is, as the kid said, that it was a fairy tale that was kind of told to him that the monsters are going to come and get you. And I think what happened is it was
Conceptually, that was the good part of it.
the servants are the ones who had this originally because they've been there for as long. But then they got delegated to servants, and the other family kind of took over, and they took it and made it this fairy tale story. And as the information got passed down or forgotten, that it just kind of became not a big deal. It's a fairy tale. If they had made it a little more, no, you have to take this key and you have to go. You have to take this key and you have to go turn it every 50 years or so to keep him in stasis. Yeah. Here, my son, this is the key that hides the spaceship in the backyard.
Right.
I think as long as you do that, you won't have that sacrifice.
The
moment.
thing is, though, the potential is still there for this exact same thing to happen again, and
Yeah,
that's my
definitely.
problem with it. Is it does set it up, because if they forgot in the 200 years and something happened, that same scenario, while it may not ever happen again, could potentially happen again. And that's what the problem I have with the Doctor, just, here we go, and taking off. It really feels like it's something that the Doctor is going to have to, then again in another incarnation, come back and fix again.
I feel
just
like
fix it the first time.
Yeah.
Take this sentient being off to some other planet where he can have, drop him on SETI Alpha 5 and let him live out his life as, its own colony. Oh, wait, that didn't work so well for... but you know what I mean.
it gives you opportunity for a sequel 15 years down the road.
Exactly. I guess that didn't work out either, did it? We ended up having to fix that later again anyway.
I think the big problem that I have with it is the ineffectualness of Team TARDIS in this particular segment of the story.
Yeah, because it's everybody else that's solving the problem.
It's true.
They don't do anything. They show
put
up,
pieces together,
they
but
figure
that's
it
it.
out, then we sneak back into the house. The Doctor is immediately knocked out, which you notice the Eighth Doctor is knocked out a lot
Yeah.
in these stories that
He is.
he's gathered up and Josie, go fix this. and then he's okay. Josie, go fix this, and
But
we're
I
going to
think
go do this, and
that was necessary for the overall
which
arc
is fine
of building
as
her
long as
character.
we're building Josie's character. But in this one, the Doctor gets taken over by plants. Josie and Birdie run, and then Josie
gets
tripped
taken
up.
over by plants.
Yeah.
So it's all up to the kid now, which, again, I don't have a problem with that per se, but if the thrust of this is to establish the character that Josie is, the Doctor should have been knocked out trying to defend Birdie, then Birdie should have been taken over, and Josie could have, mix it up a little bit and make it. Now, it's Birdie's heritage, it's Birdie's, lineage, it's his house. Okay, I kind of get where you're going, but I don't know. It felt...
Well, he has to be the next keykeeper, but it feels like Josie could have been more of an integral part in that and given her
There's a
little
way
bit
to
more.
fix that, yeah, and I'm not sure what it is, but it just felt kind of like an empty...
Child. It just popped into my head. I don't know why I said it.
It was a victory, but it was kind of an empty and hollow one. I don't know.
There's that.
It was that. But then the final segment was really good.
I do think throughout the entire 5 issues that George Mann has a good grasp of the Eighth Doctor's voice.
I would agree.
I would agree with that.
I would agree.
Did you guys
And
notice?
he has developed a good character in the character of Josie as well.
Yeah. Did you guys notice his Sonic?
I did notice this Sonic, yeah.
One step closer to canonizing that.
Well, and the interesting thing is there is at one point
And
that
outfit.
the Doctor expresses the fact that he's becoming very weary. So you can tell that this is nearing to the time of the Doctor, or
Night of the Doctor.
Night of the Doctor.
Yeah,
so.
well, and that's one thing that Skull of Sobek did do well also was his firmness of not wanting to fight.
yeah,
He
yeah.
won't be your champion.
Right.
And that really helps lead towards that.
Which is inadvertently done, which I
Yeah,
think is kind of cool.
accidental. Yeah. For me, the costume at times looks like he's in his traditional movie outfit, and then other times looks like he's supposed to be in the Night of the Doctor outfit.
It sort of made me
It
wonder.
seems inconsistent.
Sort of made me wonder if they were somehow trying to create a
Bridge
in
the
between,
gap.
bridge the gap, and it wasn't quite working because I felt the same way. The other thing that is at the back of my mind is the very visual representation, even though it's in audio, the very visual representation of we know there's a step between there as far as the Eighth Doctor goes in that line, because they all came out but did the Dark Eyes series and introduced him, and I mean he
did
picked the
that
clothes
little-
and did went to the
photo
convention
shoot.
and did the
Yeah.
convention in it and did a photo shoot with it so they could use that artwork for the. So we have that has been very much put out there, and so I hope that Titan isn't trying to just skirt past the Dark Eyes Doctor in that look, because by doing this, bridging the two.
Which that's where the Sonic came from. So you'd think they'd be
Right, exactly,
They'd
because that
acknowledge
is you're right,
that.
because that is his Sonic.
That's what's
from-
weird about
I
this.
can chalk it up a little bit more to just the big difference in my mind is the coat seems a lot longer.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, Matt Smith went through several coats, and we all went, "Oh, he's got a new coat on." I can kind of chalk it up to just
Well,
he's
and
still wearing the
Sixth
main
Doctor
outfit.
went through
but
a different outfit too in between Mind Warp or not Mind Warp.
the blue one, right?
Yeah, he went. They had the blue coat that has been sort of canonized by the series as well. So he had another outfit, so he changed out of one into one, and then back into the other one to finish his to bump his head. And you guys, I forgot to tell you, I listened to the Final Adventure.
Oh,
I did that several weeks ago, but I forgot to bring that up on the show. So it's well done, pretty well done.
but yeah, like I said, I think more than anything, my problem is the artwork is for the most part good throughout these 5 issues, and I think there are some phenomenal panels of the Eighth Doctor, but then there are some very cartoony, not quite there Eighth Doctor, and they're trying to get the range of giddiness and emotion that the Eighth Doctor kind of goes through, but unfortunately when he gets excited they tend to draw him more goofy.
I'm starting to see that as more of a technique in comics now. The more that I read modern comics, it seems to be something that artists are in a phase of, and I don't
They're
necessarily
almost
like it.
tapping
But
into
now,
that anime.
Yeah,
and
style.
now at manga style maybe.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I'm just becoming more accepting of it, knowing that that's a thing now, because that type of thing used to bother me, but doesn't so much now. It didn't so much in this arc, even though I did notice it, Sean.
It's just kind of a little bit that for having the voice down so well to then turn around and kind of take me out of the story with a visual that doesn't quite match up. It's a little distracting, I thought.
I think if we were more than casual comic readers, we would be more forgiving of it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Should we mention the cameo, too?
What was the cameo? I forget.
Oh, the 12th Doctor.
12th Doctor
Oh,
and
right,
Clara.
right, yeah. I forgot all about that, yeah.
Which was a nice moment, because when they showed up at the beginning of issue 4, I kind of thought, well, that kind of looks like the 12th Doctor's clothes. I wonder if that's... And then the fact that they showed up for a panel was...
It was funny that that happened, that piece of the fourth one happened, and then I was like, where did that go? Who was that?
Yeah,
what was
that?
going on? And I didn't think anything about it until I saw them show up in the end of that one and the end of the fifth story, and then I went, oh, okay, that was supposed to be my callback moment to, oh, that's who that is. And it still took a half a beat for me to realize that, oh, wait, that's who that was, and that was bidding on the painting.
Yeah, I kind of figured, wow.
Honestly, until right now, I didn't put 2 and 2 together with that.
Well, because
I'm going back and looking at it.
They set up issue 5 with the whole kind of plot of this piece of art, and we get into
that's
that.
where it was. That's where it was. Yeah.
It starts off in
the
issue
auction.
4.
Okay,
the auction is in 4.
Okay,
but,
that's what I was.
But the meat of why they're buying the
I got
crux
you.
of this
that's
story.
Right. But it was issue 4 where I saw that and just dismissed it, going, okay, what was that?
But once we got to the meat of issue 5 of what's going on and the painting involvement, that's when I remembered that one and thought, oh, okay.
So that...
See, it wasn't until the very end, well, the resolution and finding out about the painting is that's when it called, not finding out about it, but yeah, the kind of the info dump is when I kind of thought, oh, that must have been the callback for this.
I still didn't put 2 and 2 together. I didn't until you brought that up, and I went back and looked at it right now. Now I realized that apparently was an important piece
so quickly
of this
done. It's only
story.
a few panels. I think it was only one page.
I suppose it should have been
it?
even bigger. It's a 2-page thing. Oh, for the auction.
The auction.
Notice that the auction, when we see it again, he has a number 12.
Yeah, it's in the first panel as well.
It didn't occur to me either.
That should have been a huge clue.
The auctioneer even says, and sold to buyer number 12.
Well, anything should be a major clue in hindsight.
Well, yeah, it's true.
But it just isn't. And that's subtlety that works well when you don't figure that out until you go back and look at it and go, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I see what you did there. So.
Although when I did see the bidder in the first time, I thought, that does look like 12's outfit. Yeah. I wonder if that is. See, and then the fact that we actually get to see it at the end was nice.
I didn't even see that. So.
Yeah, totally him. Didn't pick up on it.
So Keith was all the way there. I was halfway there, and you weren't there.
I was oblivious. I think, and kind of in a way, it almost echoes Brave New Town with the last story, with the fact that these android bodies are kind of becoming self-conscious and or self-aware, and that they're just dumping programming on top of programming. I thought that was a really great concept.
It was. I thoroughly enjoyed the last story, despite the fact that it is the resolution to the bookends of the story. But the story in itself, that idea was really cool too. So I would agree.
I think that's why it maybe because the fifth issue is, in my mind, the strongest of them. Maybe that's what helps sell the rest of the arc.
Yeah,
that it's not just the story in and of itself, that it's the tie-in, but I mean the story in and of itself is really good. It's really well done.
Well, it doesn't feel like a vehicle or a device. It feels like a story in itself that really climaxes in something that sells the entire series as well. So it's twofold.
And yet still leaves it open if they want to do more stories with Josie.
Don't you suppose that'll be his companion when the
if they do
8th Doctor series starts?
Which I would,
if and when the first
I would
8th
very
Doctor
happily read it.
Series starts, yeah.
Even at the down points, this was some great 8th Doctor content.
Yeah,
it was indeed.
Very true.
Indeed. All right, Sean, what we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule. Where's my schedule? There it is. Nope, that is not it.
So, Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
There's my schedule. Next week on the schedule, we're going to take a sidestep out of the Who universe proper and into, unless Glenn's figured out a way to fix it, an alternate, not quite canonical,
I don't think it's not quite canonical. It's not canonical.
It's not canonical at all. And I'll be curious. It's been so long since I've seen them. I'll be really curious if I go back into it and go, "Yep, doesn't work at all."
No. Yeah. My need for everything in Doctor Who to connect
Ends here.
ends at these two films. Well, and in reality, it's because they can't, and because it's almost like when I watch Never Say Never Again in the James Bond films, it cannot and never will fit, and the reason being is because it is basically a remake of Thunderball, and so it was a cash grab by Sony and the co-writer of Thunderball, the original film with Ian Fleming, that it was a cash grab for them to get more money and realize that there wasn't a necessarily some copyrights that were secured and by MGM, and so like that, to me, this with Terry Nation basically doing the exact same stories, but with a little different flair, a little different twist, is just a retelling in a different universe of those stories that we are familiar with in the Doctor Who universe. So there is no desire for me at all to connect these within the canonicity or within the continuity.
Would you describe these as a cash grab?
Absolutely. Oh, they were at the time, yeah.
Absolutely.
If you haven't figured out yet what we're doing Doctor Who and the Daleks. That's Dr. Who to add
insult to injury.
Add insult to injury.
Which, you should be placated by that when they call him Doctor Who. That should work for you.
With Peter Cushing and multicolored Daleks before there were Skittles. And
that's what I'm looking forward to seeing the most, is the multicolored Daleks.
They're really impressive. That's the best part of it, quite honestly, is the Daleks. As with most Dalek stories, the Daleks are the best thing in it. But we're gonna watch that.
Peter Cushing's a pretty good part about it.
He's pretty good.
I like him. He was good.
We're gonna watch that for Friday Night Who.
The kindly earthbound inventor. That's what he is. He's not an alien. He's just a human.
Just a human. Whose last name is Who.
My mom had a doctor whose last name was Who, so
spelled W-H-O.
This doctor is not Asian.
Can't remember if hers was or not.
H-U? I've seen a lot of doctors that are H-U, yeah.
Can't remember if she was Asian, though.
So we'll be doing that for Friday Night Who, and then reviewing it. That's kind of on the docket for all of episode 290. We'll be discussing that. And the following week, big surprise, we're going to do Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. Which is a monster hashtag. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that.
Back up. We're also going to do the Dell released comic. If you didn't mention that, maybe you already did.
I didn't mention that.
Yeah.
Were you not paying attention?
Dell released I wasn't paying attention. Dell released a comic along with that, so we'll be analyzing both the film and the comic adaptation of it.
Oh, cool. Remind me to talk to you off mic.
Okay.
And then the following week we'll be doing Daleks Invasion Earth, which is kind of the reason we've been wanting to do these for a while. And just weren't quite sure how to fit them in or where we were going to put them. And then discovered, after much teeth gnashing and website checking, that apparently...
thorough research.
At least as far as what we're going off of, that the 22nd of July this year happens to be the 50th anniversary of Daleks Invasion Earth 2150. So we're going to watch Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 on the 50th anniversary, which is not quite accurate because we start at midnight, so it'll just have rolled over to the 23rd, but it's as close as I could make it work. So, happy anniversary, Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. And then we'll be reviewing that. Is there a comic for that one as well?
Not that I'm aware of on that one.
Okay. Well, that's why it didn't fare as well at the box office, obviously. The tie-in merchandise wasn't there. And then for those of you that like to get a little further ahead, we'll finish out July with The Greatest Show in the Galaxy for Friday Night Who with Sylvester McCoy, which will free us up to do some Lethbridge Stewart stuff. We got some more goodies from Candy Jar and our friends over there. So we'll be doing The Band of Evil by Roger J. Simmons and Sean Russell, which is the short. And then Lethbridge Stewart, The Showstoppers by Jonathan Cooper. So those are our review topics for that. And I believe we mentioned Royal Blood, that it'll be one of the Dalek weeks. We'll for sure get that in. And,
there'll be a little review on that as well.
So,
all right. Anything else that we need to discuss before we close this show, guys?
I don't think so.
I suppose a plug maybe for the.
Yeah, this was yesterday was Doctor Who Day.
Doctor Who Comic Day.
Comic Day, a celebration that Titan's been doing. They launched the first issue of Supremacy of the Cybermen, and they had comic events across the country. Unfortunately, there were none very near us. Any of us could make it to. So what we have decided to do is put this on the schedule down the road when they have finished the all 5-issue arc of this, and we will add to that as well and give our opinions on this particular story arc.
That's right.
All right. Unless there's anything else, until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing ya.
Thanks for listening.
Pokemon Go!
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.